One of the things that, one of the behaviors that was coming up that you had talked about was waiting is an issue, right? And so one of the things that I always want to say is when you're thinking about those abstract concepts that you have to teach your kids or your students, whatever you're working with, one of the things that you think about, wait, I always say usually equates to no. It's to some kids. And the reason that this happens a lot of times is think about you as a parent, or, you know, like if your kid comes in and it's like Xbox, you're like, I'm cooking dinner, right? You need to wait. And then what happens is you keep cooking dinner and they come back in and what do you say again? Wait, right? And then you get done with dinner and it's time to eat dinner and your kid's like, what about the Xbox? What do you say? Well, it's time to eat dinner, right? So a lot of times what we tend to do is we use the word wait, but really we mean not right now or no, right? It's not going to happen. So what you really, I always tell parents and professionals to do is wait is something you have to teach, and you have to teach systematically. So it might look like, so if Hannah wants the phone, for example, you know, and so if she wants the phone, I might give it to her for a few seconds, and then I go, my turn, and I take it back and I go, wait, and then I go, excellent, waiting, and give it right back. So it may only be like 2 to 3 seconds, but she realizes that this is going to go away, but it's going to come right back, right? Because if I say wait and then I take it away for 10 minutes, what's going to happen? Maybe a tantrum, maybe a kid that then kicks and hits, and then you're going to go, she's not getting this back, right? So I can't work on this. So what I always tell people to do is if your kid wants the iPad, for example, and you can't get it back from them, what you might want to do is set up that little scenario. So you give them the phone or the iPad, and you go, all right, play with that, and then they play with it for a minute or so or a few seconds, and I go, my turn, wait, and I go, excellent, waiting, before they can go, you know, and then lose all muscle control, you then can give it back to them. Because if they start to tantrum and you give it back, what have you taught them? Tantrum, I'll give it back. So then what you might do is give it to them for a minute or so. My turn, wait. So you pair the word with what they're doing. Now it's 5 seconds. Excellent, waiting, and then you give it back. And so then you gradually build that up. Because I'm telling you, if we don't teach it, we're going to get kids who hear that word wait, go, that just means no, right? So what you might want to do is contrive it in that situation. And it's so funny, you'll see kids, like you'll go, wait, and they're like, and then they'll look at you like, come on, it's coming back, right? That's what we want to teach them, that wait means just not right now, it's going to come back. You know, now people will say, well, I want my kid to wait for 15, 20 minutes. That might be a different scenario, right? None of us are patient in the doctor's office, right? Or the dentist when we have to wait long times. So if you're going to teach your kid to wait for longer times for something, then you might want to teach them that they can have stuff while they're waiting. So just make sure you're not making them wait for long, long times without teaching them what they can do while they're waiting as well.
Right. And we talked to you about setting a timer.
Yes, yeah. And you can, one of the good things is if we, a lot of times what I hear I've worked with a lot of adults on the spectrum, and a lot of times what they'll talk about is one of the things that's hardest from them is not being aware of when changes are going to happen, right? And I put a lot of visual supports over on that table that you guys could look at that we often use, but one of the things that happen is, we are like that, right? If we're on social media, like Facebook or something, right? And somebody comes in and is like, get off. You're like, what? I'm into all of this that's happening, right? But without anybody preparing us for that, we even at times will go, what? I didn't know we were leaving, right? So what we want to do for our kids is we want to make sure that if we're going to transition, especially from a preferred to a non-preferred, for example, that we give them a warning, right? And sometimes we do much better at that at school because our day is scheduled, right? But home is not. I get it, right? It's not. Things happen. But what you might want to do is if you know that dinner's coming up or that we're going to have to leave in 15 minutes, you might not want to give a 15-minute warning, but you may want to give a 5. You may want to give a 3. And you may want to make it visual, like on your phone, on the microwave. With a visual timer, just to let them know, hey, we're going to leave in 5 minutes, we're going to leave in 3, we're going to leave in 2. because then I'm teaching her or him that it's going to go away, but I'm going to give you a warning that it's going to go away. And one of the things that we talked about is if you're going to take the most preferred thing away, what you might want to also do is offer something a little bit less, right? So one of the things, one of the kids I'm working with now, giving up the iPad's an issue, but we want to just make sure he can give up the iPad. So sometimes we set the timer, we're like 1 more minute, then the timer goes off and we go, my turn with the iPad, but you can have some crayons, and you'll see him go, but then he'll start coloring, right? So just learning to give stuff up, they might want to exchange it for something a little bit less as well.
So did we want to go ahead and demonstrate that? We had talked about kind of coming up with a hypothetical situation along those same lines in how to deal with self-injurious behaviors, and sometimes I know it's really hard for kids when they're in an activity that they really love and it's time to stop and do something else.
Mm-hmm. So do you want to do it, or do you want me to?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. So if you, say for example, you have your child has aggressive issues or maybe displaying some self-injury, and so you come in and you're like, it's time to leave the phone, and they start hitting themselves. Well, a lot of times what we tend to do is go, okay, you can have it back, right? Well, then what we have to rethink is, am I teaching them to then engage in self-injury to get the things they want? So what we might want to do is we might want to think of that scenario of teaching weight as well. So if I know I'm going to remove something, then I might set the timer, let them have a minute or so, give them a warning, and then say, all right, I know you have, I know that this is going to leave, so I exchange it for something else. Now again, if we go in and they're hitting themselves, and we go ahead and just give it back, what we might be doing is increasing that self-injury. So what we might want to teach them is that we can replace those behaviors, but I need to make sure I'm prepared to replace those behaviors. And if I go in and just block them, for example, which is what we tend to do, right? Then if I don't do anything else, like give you a warning or try to reinforce those behaviors, I might just be blocking you all the time. So I want to make sure that I'm not reinforcing behaviors by letting you engage in self-injury in order to access something you want.